And in terms of building more homes, whether it's public housing or whether it's new private housing, it's almost as if we have an inability in this country to take an infrastructure project and make it happen. Nothing happens.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that's strictly true. I mean, we're the fourth biggest home builders in the OECD. I mean, we've been on a tear, knocking down every institution socially, culturally, and so forth to build apartments since the Sydney Olympics. Whether it's a race course, a local church, the place you used to go out to nightclubs, or whatever it may be. It's all being knocked down for apartments. But the question is, apartments for who? I mean, Australian women need to have 2.1 children to maintain the population. We haven't been at 2.1, which is the replacement rate, since 1976. It's been about 50 years now. I mean, this housing market is entirely caused by bringing in too many people into the country, at a rate that's completely out of control and completely bizarre. I mean, why do we have 12% of the global international student population here in this country? I mean, and the numbers don't make any sense on any of these things.
We're so overrepresented when it comes to student intake, it's not funny. What did you make of the news poll? And do you think the fact that we've had, I think it's 4 periods of downward trajectory for the Labor government, do you think that's a reflection of the public waking up to the fact that the government doesn't know what to do with the cost of living, nor do they know what to do with power prices, and nor do they know what to do with getting this nation moving again?
Well, running a completely unhinged immigration program at the levels that they're running at, as I said in February, it's about 105,000 people coming into the country in 1 month. It's completely politically untenable. I mean, Albanese, before he got in, said that 160,000 per year was too many.
Yeah.
Right. So you got to wonder why he's doing it. I mean, I think the only reason that makes sense at this point in time, if you go through and cross out all the things that don't make sense, is he's importing voters that might be on a future basis, when they do become citizens, on a two-party preferred basis, vote for the ALP. I mean, it's the same thing that Biden's accused of doing. It's the same thing that Trudeau is accused of doing, and parts of Western Europe is if your party's on a one-way down trip in the polls, bring in more voters.
I think you've nailed it. That's exactly what they're doing. Now, you've also written a rather fiery piece on how Australia is sacrificing its national identity and is simply rolling over when lawmakers come for our freedoms. Put another Aussie on the barbecue, you called it. What was it that broke our spirit, our larrikin spirit, Matt?
We're a very easygoing people. We take it as it comes, fair go, what have you. And, when these things start to encroach in, we don't really get up and, it's not like in France where everyone goes and riots and throws Molotov cocktails. We're pretty easygoing, and maybe a few people will complain online or what have you, but that's basically it. And as a result, and this has been successive, generations of politicians have slowly encroached upon our freedoms, encroached, in terms of, I mean, they had a whole policy for many years of low wage growth being part of our economic architecture. And the previous administration used to boast about that, right? Yeah. Which basically means is, as long as house prices keep on growing through bringing people in and suppressing wages, everything's hunky-dory. Unfortunately, we've kicked the can so far down the road, we're at the end of the line now, and the numbers don't make sense anymore. So we're really, and then Albanese came along and put everything full throttle, in a last-ditch attempt to try and get the voting up. So I don't really know. At this point, we're headed for a real problem. If you look at what happened around the world when you had a out-of-control housing bubble, whether it's the GFC in the US or the UK or Canada or Portugal or Spain or what have you, I mean, at some point, people just give up and can't pay their mortgages. And when they do so, they do it en masse. It's not just, it's called default correlation. And that's when you've got a real problem, and that's when you're up with the banking crisis.
Yeah, exactly. In your essay, you talk about Australia becoming Project Zimbabwe. What do you mean by that?
Well, everyone's a millionaire, just not how you expected, right? Because the currency is being turned into confetti, and you can see that in the price of everything, right? So,
So how do we fix this, mate? How do we get down and find solutions for this?
Well, I mean, the first thing you've got to do is you've got to solve the cost of living crisis, and that's primarily caused by housing. And so the starting point is you've got to reduce immigration. I mean, at this point, it probably needs to come down at least 90%, probably more. I mean, it's completely unskilled. We're bringing a lot of people, 786,000 students in this country, of which 250,000 are doing vet college courses in diplomas of business management that have no economic value or no credentialing that will help them get a better job either here or back in their home countries, right? So we need to cut back. I would start there. I would probably remove the accreditation for visas for all those vet colleges which are churning out useless degrees where attendance is optional, and then I'll completely review the partner and the reunification visa program, which is completely it's unskilled in terms of tests. The skilled program we bring in is a joke. We bring in goat farmers and poker machine attendants and migration agents. Talk about fox in the henhouse in terms of the skilled program. And then what we've got to do is we've got to solve the rest of the cost of living crisis, which we need to basically get energy prices down. We probably have to restart coal and then really think seriously about nuclear and turn that on. We've got to have a domestic gas reservation system. It's crazy. We're the Saudi Arabia of coal. We're the double Saudi Arabia of uranium. It's sometimes the largest, I think at the moment, the second largest exporter of gas in the world, and we export it to countries that just go and resell it to other countries, right? We don't keep any for ourselves. And then we've got to look at rebuilding manufacturing in this country. I mean, you'll never be able to rebuild manufacturing unless energy is cheap and plentiful.
Yep.
We've got to look at rebuilding industry. Insolvency going through the roof because the cost of rent and the cost of wages are too high. There's a lot of work, and it's going to be a lot of pain in order to do it.
Yeah, you've come up with some answers. I wish you'd run for politics. Matt Barrie, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.